I want to talk about how soul ties are formed. A lot of you have heard about the issue of soul ties, but you've never actually heard how soul ties are formed. But I want to take this time in this video to talk about how soul ties are actually formed. There are many ways that soul ties are formed, but in today's video I'm going to focus on just a few. So number one is sexual relations. I know a lot of people like to believe that sex is just a physical interaction between a woman and a man. But the truth of the matter is that sex is more spiritual than physical. All right? In the book of Ephesians chapter 5 verse 31, it says, "For this cause shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall be joined unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh." The joining there, that's the sexual intercourse. They then become one thing. That is what we call soul ties. But I want you to understand that this kind of soul tie is not just an ordinary soul tie on its own. It's a godly soul tie. There's an evil soul tie and there's a godly soul tie. But this one that in the book of Ephesians chapter 5 verse 31, it's being talked about is the godly soul tie, the one that God intended it to be, the one that God approves, designed by God. This kind of soul tie is godly, and what that means is that it's unbreakable by man. That is why the Bible says what God put together, no man can separate. As much as they are godly soul ties, they are also ungodly soul ties. When a person has illegal sexual intercourse, that is sex outside of marriage or sex before marriage, because there's a difference between sex before marriage and sex outside marriage. Someone can be married and still have sex outside of marriage. That is sex outside marriage. Then there is sex before marriage, which is someone who's not yet married, but they're still having sex, right? They're still practicing sexual intercourse. So the book of First Corinthians chapter 6 verse 16 explains it very well, and I like it. It says, "Do you not know that he who unites himself with a prostitute is one with her in body? For it is said that two shall become one." So the Bible is actually warning us of the dangers of sleeping around. Especially, I like the example it is given because it gives the example of a prostitute. It says, one who joins himself with a prostitute becomes one with the prostitute. That means the soul of a prostitute and the soul of that man becomes one thing. They are knit together. But here is where it gets dangerous. A prostitute does not have one customer. There are countless of souls that prostitute that she has entangled herself with before she comes to you. So imagine you have hundreds of burdens. So what happens in a soul tie is that when you tie your soul with someone who's evil or someone with a burden, that burden becomes your burden. That burden becomes your burden. So imagine a prostitute has about hundreds of souls tied with their soul, and you come and you join yourself. All those demons, all those burdens coming together into your life. And all of a sudden people start blaming witchcraft. Sometimes people blame witchcraft when there's no witchcraft that's involved. Sometimes people blame Satan when there's no Satan that's involved. You simply invited things for yourself. So the Bible says he who joins himself with a harlot, with a prostitute, becomes one with the prostitute. You don't sanctify the prostitute by sleeping with her. When we were growing up, there was this crazy scenario where sisters in the church will actually say, I'm dating this guy because I want him to be born again. Listen, that is nonsense. You can't sanctify. In fact, you are the one who becomes pulled into the world. You become pulled in the world of sin. All right? So he who joins himself with a prostitute is one with the prostitute. That is a soul tie. A soul tie. A godly soul tie is good for you. But an ungodly soul tie has bad consequences. There are other factors that contribute to your soul being tied. Number 2 is close relationships. What am I talking about? I'm talking about people who you associate with, people you call friends. The Bible actually puts it clear and says, don't you know that bad company corrupts good character? It means that the people whom you hang around with, your associate, your soul can be tied to them. I want to show you an example in the Bible. The book of 1 Samuel chapter 18 verse 1, it says, and it came to pass when he had made an end of speaking unto Saul, that the soul of Jonathan was knit with the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. So this was a soul tie as a result of friendship. And I want you to understand that David was a warrior, but Jonathan was not a warrior. The Philistines were afraid of David, but they were not afraid of Jonathan. But as soon as there was a soul tie, as soon as their friendship was solidified, the Bible tells us that they feared Jonathan. Why? Because he was an associate of David, the man whom he feared. Meaning to say, what was on David came upon Jonathan. As much as they are good soul ties as a result of good friendship, there is also bad soul ties. I once heard a wise man say that, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. It is because the people that you are associated with determine where you are going. So I'm saying this to you. The people that you're on a relationship with will determine how far you go in life. Your friends, your girlfriend. It's important that as much as you watch what you eat, you also watch who comes into your life.